Hello and welcome to GSI. I'm Lucas. It's my very pleasure to have you here on this channel, and welcome back to our 2 versus 2 Wargame Red Dragon tournament. This is game 2 of the pro capitalists versus the super Asian cool guys, with team 1, the pro capitalists, lovely team name, I think I've already said this, of Razzmann and Tortique, versus team number 2, the super Asian cool guys, Ambush and Big Admin. So the super Asian cool guys are playing team red now, so they've switched sides. Team pro capitalists is playing from the blue side, and from what we know so far, the blue team is playing Commonwealth, Mechanized and Japan Armored. So, since this is their second game against each other, and since Team 1 won the last game, they are somewhat restricted in their choice of decks. Nevertheless, Japan Armored and Commonwealth Mechanized are both very interesting decks. So, let's have a quick look here. It appears that Razzmann is playing Japan Armored, so a lot of slow transports. A spam of these. I'm not even sure whether they're in the support or in the vehicle tab. Spam of cheap guns, and we have a lot of helos by Tortique, cheap tanks by Tortique as well. Some infantry is Dormer, which is a very good unit here. And on the right side, it seems like Tortique. Oh, also Razzmann with his cheap guns. It's a bit hard to tell where they are planning to push, but since this map is rather big, there are more than 2 lanes again. So Hotel, Mike to Delta, Bravo, India, and all of this gives a lot of room for interesting tactics. Speaking of tactics, since there are two pointers involved here as well, it would make a lot of sense to start with more than 1 CV each, and Razzmann is playing 2 CVs, and I think Tortique, yes, he's also playing 2 CVs. Let's have a quick look on the red side. They are playing, from what I can see here, USSR Airborne, so Soviet Airborne, and Entente Motorized. Interesting idea, interesting choice of decks. Especially interesting considering that they will have to face potentially heavy tanks from Japan, which could be quite hard to counter. Sure thing. Soviet Airborne does have quite a nice choice of anti-vehicle, anti-tank capabilities, but all of them are hard countered by air superiority fighters or anti-air units. Okay, nevertheless, Ambush is starting with 2 CVs as well, so they are probably trying to claim Kilo and Juliet. At the same time, Big Admin, I can only see 1 CV here. They still will have some time left to deploy, but it does seem that they're only going for one of the two pointers. It seems that Big Admin is playing Soviet Airborne. He's starting with a K-52 and a Akula, a deadly combination. Also, a lot of airborne infantry units. So in here, probably Spetsnaz and it's, I don't know, what's even in this. So Mi-80 as some helos that you usually wouldn't see. Probably most players would opt for the upgrade, that is the Mi-8 TV, but it seems like they're going with the airborne push for Hotel. Left side, starting here, Ambush. If we just compare for a bit, if you look at the red team, there's a pretty clear split between them. So Ambush is concentrating on the left side, and Big Admin is concentrating on the right side. It's a totally different picture if you look at the blue team with Razzmann and Tortique, where both players are involved on all 3 fronts. So surely these are not that micro intense units, but nevertheless Razzmann also deployed some units here on Bravo. And interestingly, the blue team started with 2 cheap planes to counter enemy helos, which could become quite a problem for the Akulas. Let's switch to the blue team's perspective and just wait and see what happens when they spot them. So the first 104 is going for the Gamma. So now the car is being spotted. The 104 turns around. Both cars are now spotted. Which will he go for? Both cars are shooting, and the car 50 is dead. Car 52 lands a hit. Or maybe the anti... no! 104 gets out alive. A remarkably well trade. So this poses quite a few problems for the red team, as you can imagine, since they relied very heavily on this car 50 to kill, well, basically any blue units here whatsoever. Also interesting to see, Razzmann is not playing a heavy tank. He's playing a Yonchiki G, which is an okay medium, I'd say. It's fitted with a grenade launcher, so it's quite capable of taking down any enemy infantry. And Red is going in here very defensively, negating any advantage that they would get from an airborne landing, with landing here pretty defensively. So now they're moving in the Gondostrakis and the Spetsnaz into position. At the same time, the helos from the blue team are also being put here very defensively. I think they probably were afraid of any push with massive red helo forces, which is probably why they spread all of these helos and all these cheap guns across the entire map. 2.4 kilometers on helicopters is not that bad at all. Okay, let's look for any kind of unicorn units. I don't see any real unicorn units that we can expect some intense action from at this point. There are still a lot of these helos in the air for blue team, and we have the first contact here in the middle. These cheap tanks, they're usually well, for a 10-point tank they're solid, but their 1.7 kilometer range limits them quite a bit in their application field. Also only 2 HE and 8 PB. Nevertheless, it does seem to be working, as the tanks, which are now running out of fuel, eliminated the transports of the Leka Pichotka. Now the Maxas, which is one of the more expensive units that we can see here on the field, should be ready to swarm up the rest of the red troops that are being deployed in Lima. I think it's also a problem that usually what you would like to do as red team is deploy an ATGM team in this or this building. The Gondostrakis probably would have been a great fit for this, but they are still being parked here quite passively. Nonetheless, now there's a big bomber coming in here, the Su-22M4, carrying two 1000 kilo bombs right here in the infantry blob, and he is barely made it out. I don't think that this plane caused a lot of damage. Either way, blue is still on the advantage here, still able to move forward. Red team is reinforcing, but we can see that Ambush is struggling quite a bit as he's trying to cover both of these fronts. Now they're buying a CV for India. Why the hell? Why would you buy a CV for India? Okay, so the blue team has this very nice +2 tick because they captured both 2-pointers. And I'm not completely sure, but I feel like Team Red has lost it completely at this point. They're ignoring November and going straight for the 1-pointer, which is India. One of the most important units in the stack composition, the K-52, is just chilling here in the base, completely passive, completely out of the game. And right here, of course, they do have the Conquest M to stop any enemy tanks. There are plenty of, but none of those are really any valuable whatsoever. But still, blue is completely dictating what is happening here in Hotel. Red team is completely passive. Also right now happening in Lima, and a bit of this Also happening in India as well. We can see the helos moving up there to Bravo and India, while Lima is being pushed. So the player ambush probably is completely over, how do you say this in English? Over in its head, over his head, whatever. I think you got what I'm trying to say. Only now the ATGM is arriving here, way too late. You could also have put the Gonostrelki in there to at least negate this open area for any units trying to push here. Now another very expensive unit, the Eel Bomber, which has a lot of life points and is slightly armored, moving in here. He survives the anti-air units, but I'm not so sure whether the second bomber will. Of course not, he gets shut down immediately. Oh, and the red team made a huge investment into 2 Yak as superiority fighters. Don't get me wrong, great units, especially if you're playing airborne, but this is such a huge investment where you, well, where what you would like to do, really, and what you would need to do is buy a November CV, which they are only doing now. More planes moving in here in a desperate attempt to stop the push from Team Blue. Nonetheless, none of this is really successful, and while the red team is building up forces here to, I don't know, to defend November maybe? Oh, finally the car is coming into action. There's quite a lot of problems in here for Team Red. Their backline completely eradicated. Only now they're trying to reinforce here with anti-air units, which won't give them any help over the blue forces here. We do have we do have these IFVs pretty strong, at least against units such as the Prachka and against enemy infantry. The Han also moving forward could be a pretty big problem for the Prachka if the Han would manage to hit it. So red team seems to be reacting to this somewhat. They're moving infantry down here, which was destined to be set up in India defensively, also getting shot at by the Hachi Kiyoshiki. Prachka moving back, the plane, well, attempting to attack the Han. It's a bit difficult. Also, if you have a player playing airborne, you really should leave it to him to play any kind of planes. So happening now, November CV is finally put in place. Blue team also bought a CV for Delta, so both teams come to a tick-wise stalemate at a blue advantage of 208 points. Now, blue just stomped these buildings with cheap-ish regular line infantry. The car would have been pretty perfectly sufficient in taking these out. The car was played very, very defensively, and now the Mi-28 joins in, only to get immediately shot at by the Psalm. Oh well, and now the Kar-52 might even get into some trouble by these cheap transport boxes. So your usual 5-point shit boxes. Here comes the Eel Hunter again, the 104. Let's jump on this. Maybe we will spectate Killer 2. So Mi-28, another big investment for this front, as there's not really anything to gain here for the team. So 104 does manage to strike a kill, instead immediately get shut down by the clear red air superiority, which doesn't give red any advantages. Another 104 coming in, probably for the set share. Oh god, it's a bit dangerous trying to pronounce these. No, again, going for the helos. Going for the helos over the Strela. And Mi-28 is toast. Another CV coming in. Again, the Eel Bomber for the infantry went here. So probably blue doesn't even need to manage these, since they are already eradicated any units here in the middle for Team Red. It's a bit surprising that Team Blue didn't push any farther. They could have very well pushed into Mike, or maybe even did some flanking into India. But at this point right now, all they need to do is sit here comfortably, buying CVs, which they are doing right now, establishing a tick to further increasing their lead. I think another situation, another problem for the red team might be that they lack information. They have very limited limited insights into where the blue troops are and how many of them there are. Just to compare this, blue team already also has quite limited view. No scouts here in the middle. Scouts here in hotel sitting very defensively. But this is okay. Anything that Team Blue has to do here from this point onwards is just sitting in their sectors and defending. Right now they're already at a +1 tick. And I don't see anything happening besides from that. So red team is also buying CVs, which of course, yes, you will have to stop the tick of Team Blue somehow, but really the only place that they could put the CV in right now is Mike. And I don't think that Team Red would be able to really protect the CV in here. K52 again sitting here in the base sector. Even if you don't use it actively, you could just let it hover in the back, do some weakening with it. I think they're probably afraid of Team Blue's one of force. Nevertheless, they're starting to buying straps for the base. I think I don't know. I think at this point in time, blue team is already at a +2 tick, which will only increase once the next CV comes here and moves into hotel. Of course, Team Red will place a CV into Mike, but I think at this point this game is basically over. So cheap tanks here, and this is very symptomatic of the problem that the red team is having here. I think they're just overwhelmed, and they don't really know how to deal with these cheap units. They just bought a very expensive plane to deal with 10-point tanks, and there are more planes coming in here, only to be probably shut down again. Yes, more of these cheap rocket planes. Eel bomber coming back. For what? For the 10-point tank, for the infantry, for I don't know. Next bomber going in here. And probably if the blue team would, yeah, they're microing their AA, rockets going out. Expensive air superiority fighters. Yeah, so no big moves from either team. Let's just fast forward. Team Blue is still having a +2 tick. Small push here onto Lima, probably to secure a the placement of another CB in here, but at this point they don't really need it anymore. And here it comes. It will go into Lima, and at this point the game is over for the red team. They don't have anything they can do right now. They're still buying new planes, tank snipers, seats. Yeah, this game is over pretty fast. Even if you can't see it in the points that well, it does seem like it was a pretty balanced game. But if you look at the reality on the field, red team just didn't get their feet on the ground in any good way here. Which means that Team 2 out of this best of 3 also goes to Team Pro Capitalists. Another win for these, which means there won't be any third match between these teams. Well, moving on. In the next video we will cover many more games such as this. We are also collecting all the videos that are relating to the tournament in a playlist that is being pinned under this video, so go and check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you again. Take care, bye bye.